So it's Super Bowl Sunday. Not that I really care. That being said, I hope the Rams destroy the Patriots, because I don't know, even when the Patriots were just starting to get good and like they won their first Super Bowl like 40 bazillion years ago or so it feels, I still like wasn't rooting for them, even though they were actually playing the Rams when they were in St. Louis. And St. Louis was like really good and almost unbeatable. Even then I wasn't rooting for the Patriots. I don't know. Anyway, don't really care. All I know is I had a dream last night where, what are you looking at? What are you pulling up next to me for? Harassment. So I tried that ginger beer a couple days ago, and I swear the ginger beer popped up in my dream, which I think in my dream I had a car accident, but like everyone was just like chill, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this other car, go home and drop my groceries off, and then I'll come back and we'll deal with it. But I remember going into the Big Lots that I've started frequenting, and I remember looking for that for some random reason, like it was put back into my head, and I woke up and now I really want a bottle of that stuff. I hope they still have it, because it's Big Lots, you know, stuff gets shuffled in, stuff gets shuffled out, we'll see. All that said, on a side note, I appreciate, and I want to start speaking out a little bit more, my appreciation in terms of getting run over by cars. No, I was fine. To people who have shown me appreciation on my channels, shown me compliments. Dang it, I was hoping it wouldn't rain. I'm starting to see it drip a bit. I have a fun little sect of people that are always very supportive of me, tend to like my content. Even videos I post that I'm like, that video was okay, but wasn't that great? I still get compliments, and I am notoriously horrible at responding to comments on my YouTube videos. I usually get them or see them like when I'm at work randomly, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, I need to respond to that. And then next thing you know, I get home 5 hours later and I forget that that happened. And then I'll remember it like the next day at work when I see other comments. I'm like, oh, I didn't answer those comments last night, and just blah, blah, blah. And that's what happens. So I feel like if I'm not going to remember to type back appreciative comments to people when I'm getting appreciative comments all the time, even while I'm calling out the not so courteous comments, I can at least try to remember to mention it in my videos, especially if it's, because yeah, I got like 3 comments on my video that I posted today, even though by the time you see this it will have been yesterday, I think. Is that right? Or no, it was last night, so it'll have been the night before last by the time you see this. This doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I woke up and like between my 2 channels I had like 9 or 10 comments from people, and they were all very nice and courteous. And before all that, I got like another comment on another video that was just kind of, you know, douchey, and I'm just kind of like, it's like 4 or 5 douchey comments in a row from people. I need a nice comment. And then I got a little flooded with them. Comments of support, comments just, you know, connecting with me on the content I'm posting, and I very much do so appreciate that. That being said, I don't know why I haven't put my, I'm just holding my gloves. I don't know what the hell that's all about. I left you guys on a bit of a cliffhanger, mostly because it was a long work day, and by the time I got home I just flopped into bed and watched, I watched the last part of that Netflix Ted Bundy thing. I know serial killer history super well, so there was a few new things I learned, but for the most part I kind of knew about it already. But still wanted to see it because it was fairly in-depth. And then watched some YouTube, and I was just like, I'm done for the day. Passed out. Even this morning after like 9 hours of sleep, it was hard for me to get up. But I left you on a bit of a cliffhanger in my last video, where I was doing something I don't want to do, because I don't think I would get necessarily in trouble for it, because I actually kind of had a reason to pull my cell phone out and start videoing at that point. And I was in an auditorium at work, and I started hearing noises behind the screen, and it was troublesome enough that I left the auditorium. Like, I did not feel safe in there, and I told the manager, but I also told him, like, I checked behind the screen and I didn't see anything. But And it wasn't like little random like sound. And then you're like, the heck was that? Like, did I hear that, or was that just like, you know, me hearing things? You know, you'll just hear things and not know exactly what they are. And these were like very clear, distinct sounds. I heard the sound of like, it sounded like a pole falling over and hitting something. It was like, ting bong, and it was abundantly clear that it was a sound I was hearing and that it was coming from behind the scream. There was 2 very distinct sounds I heard while I was recording, but I don't know. As of this recording, I'm still finishing editing that video, so I don't know if you'll hear anything. Right at the start of my clip in there, I say like, I heard a noise behind there, and I assume I would have said something like, did you hear that? And then right at the end, as I was starting to leave, I heard another noise, kind of on the opposite hallway leaving the theater, and I got really, really uncomfortable, even after doing a full like check under the screen and not seeing anyone there, and I thought, must be ghosts. And I say that jokingly, but I have had a history of seeing apparitions and strange things happen at work, and I'm not the only one. I remember when I first started working there many years ago, there was a girl that I worked with. Granted, she was a little kooky, but she claimed that the curtain around the screen in Auditorium 15 tried to suffocate her once. Again, I don't know if I necessarily believe that story, but it was brought to me. And but for me personally, first time I saw an apparition, I was in Auditorium 5. This is probably 4 years ago, give or take. And I was upstairs cleaning, and I turned, and there's this little area between like a row of seating here and then the stairs going down. There's this little spot in between, and I saw this white flash leap from there, like leap forward and downward, like it was trying to dive behind a chair and out of my view. So I was like, what the hell? And I kind of stepped down, looked, nothing, gone. But I saw it long enough to tell that it wasn't just my eyes playing tricks on me. Like, I literally saw it move and go down. Ooh, Urbex, what the heck? Ooh. Oh yeah, this is the, I think this is the business that the spirit store is usually in, but I guess it's usually pretty sketchy empty. A few lights on. I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for empty storefronts, things of that nature. And anyway, oh, there's a restaurant here. So I went in for some birch beer. No. I went in for some ginger beer, left with birch beer. It was a 4-pack for $3. And become a fan of birch beer. So the first part of my trek is done. I've hit up the Big Lots, got what I want. Anyway, as I was saying, after the flash, the apparition, whew, it's that ugly sprinkling coming down. It almost feels like springtime. So, anyway, as I was saying, after that, not long after that, I was in auditorium number 9. 8 and 9 are the ones where I've noticed the most stuff. Ugh, the rain's blowing in from the south. I remember going to leave Theater 9. I was at the door, and the hallway from the door to leave goes like this little ways and then turns, and I had to turn around a corner. And as I was getting ready to leave, I turned back, and right by the corner there was the apparition. It was the most stereotypical creepypasta type apparition, except she wasn't scary, but she was a thin woman, long dark hair, straight, in like a white gown, or like a white nightgown. The very like kind of creepypasta, you know, they're always like this, except in this case the woman was just kind of looking at me like she'd never seen a human before, at least never seen a male human before, was like analyzing me. I saw her just enough, and then she went around the corner. She didn't flee, but she kind of just wrapped, you know, around the corner. And I was able to see her long enough to kind of decipher the look on her face, the look of intrigue. I also saw her long enough to note that she looked like Jane Alexander. Now, if you're not a movie buff, you probably don't really know who Jane Alexander is, because she's still alive as far as I know and still acting. But in terms of Hollywood, she was most known for, her biggest from like the mid-70s into the mid-80s. She was in All the President's Men, she was in Kramer versus Kramer, she was in a fairly well-received, pretty much TV level movie called Testament. But she was a very thin woman with straight hair, and she had a very distinct face. And the face that she has, I kid you not, was the face of this woman. So it was like I was seeing Jane Alexander's ghost staring around the corner at me. Only again, as far as I know, Jane Alexander is not dead. But I mean, if it was her ghost, that would mean she would have had to have died some three plus years ago, and she would have had to have died literally in the vicinity of the theater I work. And being an actress who was fairly well known for a fairly good period of time, and she's also done a lot of theater acting, a lot of TV acting, so on, I feel like we would have heard something about it. I would have heard something about it. But that was all I could really say, is that that's exactly the apparition looked like. But the biggest thing was, back in early, it would have been 2016. Damn. We started this process at my theater where we completely reconstructed the auditoriums. It was a really big, really expensive, really long-term job. I think it took like over 4 months to finish the whole thing. And what happened was they went in, brought this construction crew in. I took hundreds of pictures of it. And it was bizarre, having worked there as long as I had and knowing the place, you know, internally the way I did. They came in and just ripped all the seats out. I remember going into the auditoriums and just seeing the bare kind of stadium rows, but no seats on them. And then in front of the screen, there's just a big pile of seat parts. And it was like that in every auditorium. And then I remember it was bizarre. Like, they had to put plastic up all over the walls because they were drilling and stuff and shooting dust everywhere. And it was a very construction site type situation. They had their spotlights in there, and they had to literally build so that they could create the impression. They pretty much had to add height to the overall floor, so they actually elevated the floor level. So when you go in now, you go slightly upward when you're walking into the auditorium, but that used to be flat. But they made it go up so that you go down to the lower seats closer to the screen. And there's fewer rows than there used, because there used to be, stadium seating wise, there was like 10 rows going up, and now even in our biggest auditorium there's like 5 or 6. So the flooring that you're standing on at any given time, whether you're next to your seats, you're on the ground, what you think is floor level, walking into the auditorium, it's not. It's actually metal supports and heavy, like, plywood and stuff was put in. And I remember them bringing in finally all the chair parts, and they were all in these boxes, and literally they filled a whole hallway. And I took pictures of them. You could barely get through the hallway. There was just boxes everywhere. And then the final process was them putting all these seats together, and these big luxury lounger recliner things that we have now. But anyway, the reason I tell that story is because before this, because I really haven't seen it since, before this, theaters 8 and 9 with the old seating, we used to have the cup holders. Every other row, you could lift the cup holder up or put it down. It, moved back and forth as you wanted it. And when you pulled it up, it didn't just go straight up to where it could maybe fall back forward. It went back at an angle like that, so it couldn't naturally fall forward up by itself. And for months leading up to all of this rejuvenating our auditoriums with these big luxury loungers when we still had those old seats, every day when I opened, the first time I would come into 8, and sometimes in 9, but it was mostly in theater 8, the second row from the front, which would be the first row that had the cup holders that you could open and close as you wanted, the middle cup holder would always be down. Because when you clean the theater, you're supposed to lift all of them up. They're supposed to all be up. So a customer has to come in and lower it themselves. So at no time at the start of the day should any cup holder be down. But every day that I opening meaning I'm the first person going into these auditoriums, second row from the front, middle cup holder, always down. Always. For months. Nobody believed me. I'm like, there's no way that could have happened without a person doing it, and nobody did it. I mean, some nights I was the closing usher, which meant I was the last person in there before we closed, and I was the first person in there the next day, and it wasn't me. So that was how I became pretty dead certain that the place was haunted. And on that note, second leg of my shopping done. I just gotta figure out what to do with this bag as I whew, must be super Sunday. Nothing open here. So anyway, those are my personal stories. I might even be forgetting one in terms of how haunted. I'm very interested in learning the history of the property that the kind of whole mall complex I work in may have been built on, because it's, I don't know, it's weird. Well, and even recently, because I haven't really noticed anything recently until, you know, yesterday. Yeah, I had a coworker tell me that there's an auditorium that she, if she can help it, she will not go into by herself anymore. And she said that, the way I remember it was only told to me once, so I only kind of sort of remember it, is she went in, I think there was somebody with her who corroborated her story. They went in to clean, thought they were alone, they looked down, they saw, you know, it was kind of dark in the theater, they saw a guy that was like just completely all dark, like they were just dressed completely in black in the shadows, which is bothersome enough when you think you're in a theater alone and then suddenly someone's there. So they finished, they went downstairs, and the guy just like dematerialized, was just gone. So that's a recent story told to me by somebody else. That seems to be very strange. I don't know if it's ghostly, but it's weird to have something like that happen when you're just working your freaking theater job. But I'm telling you, my workplace, haunted. So anyway, all that said, is that guy, oh, okay. There was a sketchy guy in the mall, and I noticed him turning when I turned. So I was wondering if he's following me, because if he tries to mug me, not today, man. That being said, before I go, what do you think? You know, I'm going to be posting this tomorrow morning, so my question will be answered, but what do you think the odds are that it's actually going to snow? I looked at my weather app on my iPhone, and it's suggesting the potential for snow for like 6 of the next 8 days. And the big thing has been overnight tonight, they're thinking maybe it'll start snowing. I'll believe it when I see it. Usually when they say snow's coming, it doesn't come. The time when the big snowstorms actually show is when the meteorologists have no freaking clue that it's coming. So we'll see. It's actually fairly warm right now. I'm actually pretty comfortable out here with my, you know, 2 layers. I don't need my gloves. I only have my flourishing colorful cap on to keep the hair out of my face. It's not bad right now, so I'm guessing there's going to be a pretty steady drop. And I've noticed that the wind, I mean, there's a little bit of wind now, but nothing like what it's been. But I noticed yesterday there was just nothing. And I've noticed that is usually how the weather is for the most part. Right before the big snow hits, is it just gets still. And it's just dead silent, no branches rustling, nothing. It just gets completely still. So we shall see. I'm interested in what you think in terms of this whole week, for that matter, in terms of whether we're gonna get a good snow. And I have to be up at 7:30 to go to work tomorrow morning, so I'm very interested in seeing what it's gonna look like tomorrow. And I will have probably my GoPro with me, because it'll be so cold that this iPhone's gonna die in like 3 minutes, but I'll definitely have my GoPro with me tomorrow to do my vlogging stuff, and we'll see if it snows. All that said, catch you guys later.